Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show, and with me right now, I've got a very special guest. She has competed for numerous promotions across the United States and across the world. One half of Team Blondage. Pleased to welcome the one and only Krissy Vaine. Welcome, Krissy, to Wrestling with Heart.
Hi, Stanley. Hi, everybody. I'm fighting a little cold right now, so I'm a little hoarse. Just forgive me.
No worries, it's all good. So, you're from North Carolina, Greensboro area. Tell me about your childhood and upbringing.
It's funny, we just got back. My son and I just got back from North Carolina. So I'm a Florida gal now, but I definitely grew up in North Carolina as a country girl. I grew up in a small town, or a little small town, like right outside of Greensboro, North Carolina, called Pleasant Garden. And my first job was at like the little like itty bitty tiny like country grocery store, and everybody knew everybody. But very different from the life that I live now because I moved to Tampa. And so I've been living like city life for the last like 12, 14 years or so now. But small town girl, small town roots, grew up in church every Sunday. And yeah, there's just I had a good upbringing. I was an athlete and a theater kid, so I was a little bit of a like an odd mix. So that's how sort of wrestling came into play.
That's pretty interesting, having that kind of a background. You get involved in so many different activities growing up. So, wrestling, was that always something you watched as a kid, or was that just something you fell into a little later on?
No, actually, I was in beauty school when I was 18 because my parents said like, oh, you can either go to like a trade school and like pick a job that you want to do, or if you go to a four-year college and you like talk yourself out of everything and you flunk everything, you have to pay us back every dime. So I was like, okay, well, let me go to cosmetology school. Let me get a trade so that I don't have to pay these people back for, talking my way through every single class. And so in cosmetology school, I actually met a girl who was a big time wrestling fan, and she invited me one night to go to a live WWF show, and I was hooked from that night on.
Wow. What was it about wrestling when you first saw it? You were like, man, this is so cool.
So being from a small town, I knew that I wanted to like be in the public eye somehow. Um, where I'm from, there's not like a ton of modeling. Acting didn't call to me so much. Like I liked improv theater, so I liked like working like on the fly. And I was a softball player and a cheerleader, a good ball player too. So when I went to that first like live WWF show, and I remember I saw Ivory. She was like, the first like diva that I saw like in real life, and we were sitting close to. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful and so strong. And she sort of has like all of like the attributes that like I wanted to have as a woman. At this time, I think I'm a 17 or 18-year-old kid. And so then after I left that show, I went home and started researching wrestling schools.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, it's like wrestling, I feel like has something for everyone, and you have to find what's like unique to you as to why you want to be in the business. So you get to look at the different schools. Eventually, you get training. Uh, Talk to me about like the training process because you mentioned you were an athlete playing softball, doing cheerleading, but then you get into wrestling. It's a whole nother world onto itself because there's a lot of physicality involved.
Yeah, and I actually trained for an entire year while I was in cosmetology school before I was allowed to have a match at all. So I just told this story a few days ago. I was working at a Supercuts and I was working front desk, and I had been researching wrestling schools, but I hadn't like chosen one yet. I also didn't have $3,000 to like spend on like wrestling school. So lo and behold, I always feel like I'm like God's favorite, and like God always sends like his messengers and his signs to me. So I started to recognize like some of the local wrestlers. So I'm working front desk at Supercuts, and one of the local wrestlers who I had never met before, never seen before, but recognized him when he walked in, came in to get his hair cut. And I was like, oh my God, I know you. I was like, you're a pro wrestler. And he was like so impressed that I knew who he was. It was Rob the Bull McBride. And at that point, he actually invited me to Ken Spence's school, which was in a barn in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It was freaking freezing when I started training. And then so I started training there. I learned how to like body slam on like 300-pound Rob McBride. And I trained there for a little bit. And then I eventually switched to CWF Mid Atlantic, which was in Burlington, and where I sort of got aligned with Amber O'Neill and fell in with that crowd.
So you guys met right then and there at the training school. What was it like getting to work with her? And when you meet all these people, you develop these friendships and camaraderie, and that's something that I've talked about with many people on the show. It's one of the cool things about the wrestling business is that you're with these people, you get to know them, and all of a sudden, these friendships start clicking, and you're around them almost 300 days a year. Talk to me about your first meeting with Amber.
So I didn't meet Amber at CWF Mid Atlantic. I actually met her at a PGWA all women's wrestling show in Winston-Salem, which the Ken Spence crew had invited me to go to because Ken was friends with Randy from PGWA, all girls show that they thought that I should attend so that I could meet some people. That was where I met Amber. I still remember when Amber came out. She was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in her, metallic teal top and her like black leather pants, looking like Britney Spears. So that was actually where I met her for the first time. We immediately became like soulmates, soul friends, sisterhood forever. And this was 20 something years ago now. And then I think that she likely invited me to CWF, and that's how I got involved with that crew. But I met her in Winston-Salem at an all-girls show.
Now, when you're training and learning the basics on how to wrestle and different techniques, um, you have to go through so many drills and put in a lot of reps into the work. So talk to me about some of the tips that you got early on from your trainers that you still recall and you've been able to apply after wrestling.
So I was really, really lucky in the Carolinas. Once I got transferred like out to Florida with WWE, I don't know, it was almost like I lost access to some of those people. But like growing up in the Carolinas, especially like outside of Charlotte, where NWA was, based for so long, I had access to people like Dusty Rhodes. I was training with very, very early on in my career. Dr. Tom was in Tennessee, training with him very, very early on in my career. Les Thatcher, Ricky Steamboat. Um, I had access to like the best of the best of the best that were doing workshops and seminars close by. So every chance I got to take a seminar from like one of like the greats, I went and took it and just sort of like picked brains of whoever I get, because like once I do something, like once I like have my mind set on something, I'm like very like sort of streamlined to that. So I just wanted to sort of devour any information about wrestling, about the history. I would watch like Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat matches from NWA, and like I would be Ric Flair and I would make my opponent be Ricky Steamboat, and I would just copy because I didn't understand psychology when I was first starting out. So I just copy those matches like verbatim. But I feel like I was so lucky to just run across like the huge veterans and the huge stars like Magnum TA. Like, I mean, there were so many I can't even remember that I just had access to all the time. The Rock and Roll Express. These were guys that we were working with on regular basis, and they would see Amber and I, and they would see something in us. So we were also very Leilani Kai. I worked with Leilani closely for years and still like keep in touch with her to this day. So many of these huge stars like we were so lucky to be able to, Sensational Sherry. Like we were able to like just pick their brains. We were Sherry's we were one of her like last matches, and she hadn't wrestled in a really long time when we wrestled her. And I remember her being so scared and being like, please, like, like take care of my body because she was, a little older then. And it was just so wild to be able to share these experiences with like these huge like stars and like the history of our business to be able to share that with them. And yeah, I just feel so thankful and so lucky for that experience. Because they would take you and teach you, the ropes as much as they could. And that was such a huge advantage over, somebody, I don't know, let's say in North Dakota, who didn't have that much access to that much star power.
You get to share the ring with so many legends, and so when you're able to pick their brain, I'd imagine, working with Sensational Sherry, that was a thrill because
It was
she was
amazing.
a legend. So was Lalani Kai and the others you just mentioned. But Sensational Sherry was definitely someone who we still miss to this day. Getting to work with her during this period of time, anything that she taught you and pieces of advice that you still recall and were able to pick up and be able to take it on after your time working with her.
Character, and that character like often matters even more so than work rate. Especially like as you get older, like can you like keep the crowd, with just your voice? Can you like pull them in with your energy and your vibrancy? Like she was still so vibrant and so radiant. And she didn't know my name. I think she called me like Christy. Like I was like, whatever, girl. I'll answer to anything. Like I think she said Krissy Vaine, and she was just on the mic and and just so good. And people just the crowd like went insane. And I mean, honestly, I was going insane too. Like internally, I was like, I can't believe this is my life right now. But yeah, just to like really, 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 you can be a great wrestler, but if you're like watching like paint dry, you're not gonna last. Like, so you really have to like find like that inner vibrance and that like inner radiance, or you're not gonna last and you're not gonna stand out. So I think that that's charisma is like probably what I took from her.
Yeah, putting all the fundamentals together like character, work rate, um, just being able to have that like total package, takes you so far. And so you made your debut as a manager actually in the year 2000. I believe your name was Special K. What was that like being able to work as a manager before getting to be in the ring?
I love managing. I still love managing to this day. If anybody wants me to come manage them, like please call me because I still love managing to this day because it's such a lost art.
Hmm.
It's such a lost art to have like a addition to typically, they add a manager or a valet to a wrestler that maybe is not strong in something that the manager or the valet is strong in, and vice versa. So I think that the art of like Baby Doll, like the days of like baby, like so I also came up with Baby Doll and I'm really good friends with her daughter. Like we've really like lost the art of like having like the companion to the wrestler or the companion to whomever. Like these are really important aspects because what do we have in life? We have relationships, right? So what do we want to mirror in wrestling? Relationships.
Yeah, I mean, you have
Like you're out there on your own, but like a lot of people would really benefit from having like a yin to a yang.
exactly. I mean, it's like the accessory going with the main product there. I mean, you mentioned Baby Doll, you had Terry Runnels, Marlena, you had Sunny, you had Sable, and so many other people going down the line here. For a long time, you had these great characters alongside the wrestler. And I agree, it is kind of a lost art. Why do you feel like it is?
So I think that the reason why I have been around as long as I have been around and still can actively wrestle is because I always have sort of known my place. And I also didn't think I needed to jump, 6 feet off of a building, into a wrestling ring to like prove, that my existence matters. Um, I think that when you can do things such as like be a manager or play a character, that you can really expand the longevity of your career and do much less, but accomplish much more. So I think nowadays, we're seeing with like a lot of the kids. I mean, like Ricky Morton has been one of my good friends, and he's been for since I was 19, and he's still going at it. Hard at almost 70. But our generation that we've seen in the past, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years, they really are, again, you've lost the art of like of the vibrancy and the radiance of like character, and like what do you bring to the table other than just moves or flips or like high spots for like a cheap pop? Can you get a pop just by like looking into the camera and talking? Do you even have to do a move? So I think that we've like kind of lost the art of like of work, of like working. We were always taught that like if you hurt someone or if someone gets hurt at a match with you, like this is bad, bad, bad business. And that, wrestlers should last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years and still be fine to wrestle. George South is one of my favorite people on earth. And he's the best at that. Been doing it his entire career and made a huge living out of it. The whole less is more. Amazing worker, but he's a worker and he's not like out to prove to anybody. And there is a place, like, don't get me wrong, there's a place for like the hardcore stuff and there's a place for the big moves and all of that. But I think it's just gotten like a little bit like out of hand. It's not so necessary. And we're seeing people not have like huge longevity nowadays.
I think it's important to have a story as well to be able to convince people why they should watch, why they should be able to tune in and watch every week and watch, the premium live events or whatever, so that it gets you to tune in every week and not just I want to wrestle you because this reason. I want to wrestle you because of that reason. There's got to be something like at stake in order for.
Percent. Wrestling is like an adult soap opera with athleticism,
Mhm.
involved. Like we want to see like the stories and the who's with the who's and the who's boyfriend and girlfriend here and like who's trying to interfere with that and like who's trying to take her or like what's at stake. So 100%. I'm a big story person
Mhm.
and like the telling of the stories and also the taking time with that because people need time to process. It can't be like duh, 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 duh. Where is our time to process like what actually happened? Our brains don't necessarily work that fast. So I think that we like that art has like really, and everything goes in cycles, right? So like, cyclically it's likely to like revert back, just because it's been one way the last 10 years. It will always circle back around because
Mhm.
you know, what's steadfast is what's steadfast, and wrestling's been the same way for many, many years.
Right. I mean, you get that like not like a nostalgia rule, but like, how there's like a 20-year cycle or whatever, it just comes back.
Absolutely.
So,
Hmm.
I think we'll definitely see like the era of storytelling come back in full force. Now, eventually you get in the ring. Talk to me about your first match. Were you afraid? Were you confident? Scared? Nervous?
Well, even now to this day, I still get nervous before I do any type of performance because I care. Um, I think a warning sign to me towards the end of the 2 years that I spent in, WWE and the farm system, like through my debut, I think that I should have probably looked at the warning signs of like I stopped getting nervous because I stopped caring because I was so fried, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. So anytime I do anything now, I get very nervous about the way that I look, the way that I move. Like in fact, I'm wrestling this weekend. I haven't wrestled in a few years. But it's like a promoter that I worked for like the last 20 years saw me at the NWA show and he saw me with my friend Tiffany. He's like, oh, these two look gorgeous together. Says, hey, do you want to come work? And I'm like, Ronnie, I haven't been in a wrestling ring in 2 years. I was going through a divorce and going through some personal stuff. So I was like sort of adjusting to like the new settings of my life. And he's like, yeah, you've been working forever. You'll be fine. And I was like, I mean, I'm glad you believe in me that much. But like, I'm sure that I know it's like riding a bicycle. I'm always good. But like, he booked me so close to the show that I haven't even had the chance to get into a wrestling ring. If people continue to book me, I will be going and driving myself to Natty's school and like going and training with Natty if people continue to book me because I still get very nervous. And I was so well respected and so good, back in the day that I don't want to go out and suck. Like I don't want to be like, oh my gosh, like Krissy Vaine's still trying to wrestle and she's all washed up. Like, no, 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 no. That's like horrifying. So I still very much care. And I think that if you don't care, then it's probably time to like take a look at like should you still be active in whatever this is? Because I think you should always care.
You start putting the work in, start putting the reps in. And so you had mentioned earlier about when you and Amber first met. Talk to me about forming Team Blondage and you guys being able to be quite the attraction on the independent scene.
Yeah, at Team Blondage was Amber's vision and I was so young and sort of hadn't been out in the world that it was completely her vision, sort of her costume ideas, sort of her look. She set up the photographer for us, Ray, who we worked for like a bazillion years. Um, that was her vision, and I just happened to be the one to come along that got to, and I was the perfect fit that got to live that with her. And then we were lucky enough a few years ago for WoW to reform Team Bondage out in LA and do a season of WoW Superheroes that aired on, I think it aired on CW. And it was like, it was the most fun. I love, like, so I'm a singles wrestler, that's fine. I love working with other people. It's my favorite thing. I love a tag team match. I love to manage or valet. I love co-creating and being like with my community and my friends. So as much fun as I have like doing singles matches and things, I think that that pushes me out of like sort of like my comfort zone and like, Kristen, take up space and shine on your own. I love working with other people. It is so fun. Amber and I had the time of our lives. I mean, we would tear up the roads every weekend for years until I got signed. And then she went off and did a bunch of great stuff, after I got signed. So yeah, it's the time of your life to travel with your best friend and get to do all these shows. It was so fun.
Any fun stories you want to share about time on the road?
Yeah, I'll tell you a ghost story.
Okay. Okay.
So we were so I'm a big like supernatural, like spiritual person. Amber has never been a supernatural person. I am. I like grew up in a haunted house. Like, so I have sort of had like supernatural things happening to me my whole life. And so it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. We're driving to one of Pop's shows, like WXW when it was in PA.
Hmm.
So we're like driving through the Poconos. It's 3 o'clock in the morning because I think we had done a double shot in like West Virginia. So we were driving up from West Virginia to WXW the next day. And I had a brand new like Chevy Cavalier. So it's a new car. And so no problems, no issues. And all of a sudden we're driving through the Poconos and the locks start going. I take my hands off the wheel because Amber's looking at me like, what is happening? And I'm like, I'm not touching anything. And we're like watching the locks go like back and forth. And I was like, what the hell? And she just blurts out, she goes, girl, there's a ghost in this car. And we died. So then we like come up on like a gas station. We stopped. I turned the car off. So obviously it stopped once I turned the car off. And we run into the gas station and we're like, yo, like to the gas station attendant, we're like, yo, like this crazy thing just happened. And we told him what I just told you. And he said, yeah, you're like on sacred land. He was like, he's like, there's Indian burial grounds everywhere. And we were like, no shit. So that was a fun. And we talk about that still to this day. Like remember when the ghost jumped in the car in the Poconos? There were so many, but that was one of the best ones.
Only in Pennsylvania, right?
Right?
Yeah, that's so funny. Well, did you both have like favorite opponents that you got to work against over the time that you spent together on the independent scene?
We really like to work with Persephone. We like to work with G Star. Um, I would say because they were based out of the Carolinas too. We worked with them a lot. I actually worked with Alexis Lurie. It was obviously Mickey James in my very first match before I was actually like trained for real. They threw me in a match at the Greensboro Coliseum when I was should not have been wrestling, but it was with her and Persephone, a three-way. They carried me right through. It was fine, but like they definitely didn't give me a match for like another 6 months. Um, but I would say G and Persephone were like probably our favorites. Talia and April Hunter also favorites. Um Angelina, I didn't really work with that much until I got to WWE. I had been in like a few all girl shows with her, but I didn't really get to. We worked with Talia and April a lot at WXW, so I never really met anybody I didn't like to work with. Again, I'm sort of like a people person. Very rarely will you ever hear me say, "Oh, I'm not like a big fan of them." It was always fun on the indies, always.
Yeah, it seems like you get like quite a bit of experience getting to travel to many different places and then come back and start the process again.
Yeah.
So, um, now, how long were you and Amber together for as a team?
Yeah, I mean, on and off the last like 20 years. I can't even put a number on that because one of us may go off and do something else for a little bit and then we'll come back and we'll like do another tag team match. So like it's hard to say 20 years on and off easy.
20 years. So you get an offer to sign with WWE, which is a huge, huge deal. Talk to me about the moment where you signed with them and started with Deep South, because I believe that's where the training facility was, right?
Yeah, I got to choose between Deep South and OVW. OVW was like more like established and had been there a while. Les, who I was really like, I'm sure that was Les still there? Did I meet him afterwards? Anyways, I was really good friends with Les and he had been a mentor, on the indies for me. But I felt like going to OVW, I might get like lost in the mix because there were so many people there. So I chose to go to Deep South because it was also only 4 hours away from my hometown in North Carolina. So I was like, okay, well, it's still pretty close, like not too far away. I had never moved away before, and neither had anyone in my entire family. I'm still the only one that's ever moved away in my
Wow.
family. Yeah, ever. So that's why I'm like the odd egg, the strange bird. But so yeah, I went to Deep South and there was maybe only 30 of us total when I started. I mean, it was so small. Six girls maybe. It was so small. Um so yeah, that was, and then, we get there and there's no TV. So you think you're going to like, oh, look, there's my cat. Um,
Hello.
uh, so you think you're like getting signed to like WWE and like you're gonna be like this big star. And there was no television because it was a new developmental system. So it took us months and months and months to get TV going in Deep South. Then we get TV going, and then they shut Deep South down, and then we were all moved to Tampa for FCW. So, like the kind of exposure they get now for like NXT and stuff, we did not get then because we didn't even have TV. So, like our tapes and stuff, I think were being sent up to the office, but it felt like you were sort of like in a hole and like not working for WWE at that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd imagine that's pretty hard, when you don't have a lot of exposure and you want to get the product to be as best as possible. And so you had to really like fight it out to like really like show the office this is who I am, check out what I'm doing. Hopefully there's a spot on the main roster because it's not easy to be able to get one of those big spots.
No, and also it's very different performing in front of a crowd than it is, doing empty arena matches, which is what we were doing for a really long time. So, yeah, there was a lot of disadvantages that an established developmental system would not have, but we were new. But then there was also advantages to, only being 30 of us there. Like we got a lot of like one-on-one and like a lot of hands-on, and we could always go write to Jody or write to Bill or write to Dave and like ask like one-on-one questions and get one-on-one help. So advantages and disadvantages to both. For me, I felt like that there was no end in sight because I was like, I am here for television. Like we are training and it sort of felt like there was no end in sight. Um, Once we got TV, though, it was better, but then we got shut down again and then shipped off to FCW again where there's no TV. So it was a lot of like sort of chaotic and not like that established back then. But it's like it was just the times.
Yeah, and so you were in developmental for, I want to say it was about a year and a half before you got called up. Any fun memories you want to share about your time with Deep South or your time in FCW getting the chance to work with the other girls?
Um, well, there are many. The first one that like I love a themed party. So like one of the first ones I can think of was my first birthday that I had at Deep South. I was like, I want to have a pimp party. So like I'm like made everybody dress like pimps with like the fedora hats and like the suits and like the black pants, whatever. So we started drinking sake bombs at the restaurant and Oleg and I did a crazy shot of so like Prudius and I did a crazy shot of something insane. I don't know, I don't remember exactly what it was at this time, like an Irish car bomb or something. I'm not a big drinker, so I don't know what it was called. And then like we're like dancing to like the one bar in like McDonough, Georgia. There was literally in one place. It was called Double D's, and we're dropping it low, and my pants split wide open on the dance floor. I was in black pants with like
Oh,
my pimp goblet and my fedora hat. Listen, I didn't skip a beat. Chantel got on the front of me. Lauren, Angelina got on the back of me, and we like just danced right off the dance floor. Danced right back to the Linda. Danced right back to the apartment complex. Didn't skip a beat. I changed clothes really fast and was back at the club within like 20 minutes. So, well, like times like that were like so fun because you're young and carefree and I don't know. We were like sort of like the local celebrities. So like the cops knew us, all the bar people knew us. Like it was really fun. But that was one I can think off the top of my head.
yeah, I mean, when you get the chance to be around community and being around your friends, it's those memories that stick with you, for life.
And I'm still really close, Chantel, Lauren, still some Amber, my best friends to that I've talked to all of them in the last 7 days. Like still my best friends to this day. Like just really, really long relationships. So it was like
Yeah,
it's been a good fun time.
for sure. Now you get called up to WWE. You're set to debut on SmackDown and are about to have a feud with Tori Wilson. Tell me about getting called up to WWE.
I didn't know what I was told nothing. I knew nothing. I didn't have gear because we weren't doing television. So the last I heard, they were never going to call me up because I looked too much like Tori Wilson. So I had my hair darker for a long time because I was like trying to not look like Tori Wilson. And then I think one day I woke up and I was like, I was again sort of mentally, spiritually, emotionally sort of like shot. I was done. And I was like, I'm making my hair blonde again. I'm like, I'm tired of like being somebody that like these, the powers that be want me to be. I'm gonna go back to who I am. Like I was born with hair this color. Like I'm gonna go back. So I made my hair blonder again. Didn't tell anybody, didn't ask me. I was just like, I'm gonna go back to being me. And then within like a week or two, they like I got a call that I was going on the road. And I was like, wait, what do you mean I'm going on the road? I had 3 days to get ready, but they didn't tell me what I was doing, who I was going to be involved with, nothing. So I had to call Jolene, who is now a full-time WWE seamstress, but I had met her through Malaya Hosaka. She was one of Malaya's friends and seamstress. I think she might have been with TNA at the time. But I was like, oh my God, Jolene, I need a TV outfit. Like I have nothing to wear. Like I'm going to TV in 3 days. And so we threw together an outfit like really, really quickly. Still didn't know what I was doing. Went to TV and they basically told me that I was going to be kind of attacking Tori Wilson. They didn't tell me that they had the intention on me being her little sister, which I guess like I heard this later, like that I was going to be her little sister and like I don't know if this is true. Like Tommy told somebody else, and then they told me that I was supposed to win the belt. No one told me any of this. Like
Mm.
I still don't know to this day if any of this is true. Um, but I was also the first one from developmental to get brought up. So we all got shipped to FCW. Some people got let go. Some people, whatever happened, happened. I was now in FCW with like the Bellas and Natty. I think Natty and I were still the only two left standing from Deep South. So they call me up and I'm like the first out of my class. There's no social media then to where I could form any friendships or like so I like go up and I'm like I felt like I was like bullied. I should have been tougher than like I was. I should have like had tools. I probably likely should have told like a higher up what was happening, but I'm also from the generation that like we don't tell what you don't if somebody's being shitty to you, you either tough it up, like tough it out or like go. And after 2 weeks of that, I was supposed to be on a 3 week European tour. And I said, oh, there is no way that I
Mm.
can go on a 3 week. These people are going to destroy me. And it was hard for me because I was like, again, I'm from a small town. I was always on homecoming court and cheerleader and very popular, same on the indies. So I didn't realize at the time, like, that people that were, being ugly to me it was just like a jealousy or like, let's get her out of here thing. Cause I was obviously getting pushed into a big storyline that I did not know. I wasn't privy to that information. So I ended up quitting before a 3 week European tour.
Ah, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Um,
It's okay.
you're welcome. I mean, it's like you're the new kid in school. You're getting to know all these new people, and you encounter these people that are being nasty, and you just don't know how to handle
Yeah.
situations like that.
And I
It's
was already taking a lot of Xanax at that time to numb everything. Again, we didn't do therapy back then. We didn't do mental health. So it was really challenging and I was on so much Xanax that I couldn't feel anything. So I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna like walk away. And yeah.
it's a struggle, and you
Yeah.
really have to know in your mind, almost like you were saying earlier, you got to evaluate the situation, what's going to work, what's not going to work. And so you ended up going back on the independent scene, working a variety of different opponents. Let's talk about some of the people you got to work with as a single star. Who were some of your favorites that you got to step
I
in the
worked
ring with over the
with
years?
Daphne a lot when I came back. Like Daphne was one of like at least my first few matches, I was working with Daphne, which was great. She was always like the best person to work with. I got to work with Amber a lot, which was great. Um, those were the two that I remember the most. I didn't really do a ton. Oh, then I went and got what and Shane Helms recommended me for Lucha Libre USA for MTV um a few years after WWE because I was doing indies and stuff and still looked good. So Shane recommended me for Lucha Libre. So I got to do that for a season, I think, and got to work with like Rebby Sky and a few others. But yeah, so that was fun. It was also long ago. It's like 20 years of like, things like all like combined. I'm like, gosh, let me like try to think of who I did work with at that, period of time. But Lucha Libre was really fun. And then I got to go to Mexico because of that and wrestle in Mexico. They gave me a little small person to manage and ballet me. It was like the best day of my life.
It's like it's you're learning a whole nother style. I've talked to people before about the going to Japan for those people that went to Japan and they come and learn a new style there. What was it like learning lucha libre?
Well, so I was in Lucha Libre USA, which was for MTV. That was so it was still like
Oh,
American. it was still Americanized, like Lucha Libre, because we shot it in New Mexico,
Okay.
obviously United States.
Yeah.
Because of the connections that I met there, I then was asked to go to like Mexico City and wrestle. Best day of my life, a tall blonde woman like landing in Mexico City. Like I was on like the cover of magazines like the next day, like locally. I was like, oh, maybe I'll come live here. I think Jindrak is the one who got me booked over there, Mark Jindrak.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was so fun. Like going to Mexico was really, really, really fun. I was only there like a day, but I really enjoyed the culture and wish that I could have like spent more time out there.
Did you notice any differences as far as the culture and wrestling style versus
It's
the?
so simple. Like so it was, I mean, obviously like the wrestling style is different, but the people, it's so much more simple there. There's not as much like going on as like, what we have in America. It was simple like it was very family oriented. Everywhere I turned and I didn't know a lick of Spanish, like someone was there to help me. Like I loved it there. I had the best experience there. I
Yeah.
thought the people were amazing.
It's always good everywhere, somewhere you go that's new, you pick up something and you take it with you and you come back with a new skill and new experiences to share with your friends. I know you've done a lot of the conventions and signings in the past. Tell me about being able to see fans. I'm sure they've come up to you, and it's got to feel good, getting that recognition from fans that have watched you, and whether it was on the independent scene or was with WoW, even your time in the WWE. Uh, it's got to feel good, being able to have those moments with fans.
Yeah, I mean, wrestling fans are the best in the world. And you know what's funny is you'll you'll disappear for a few years. Like I said, I was going through a lot of personal stuff in the last few years. So I didn't attend any wrestling shows. I didn't put myself out there to try to do any wrestling shows. I think the last thing I did was I shot with EC3 on CYN like 3 years ago. And then recently I showed I showed up to an NWA show because I was invited by some friends. And wrestling fans are so great because they never forget about you. Like I was sitting in the audience and we were sat front row because we were there, to support friends. And I'm a fan at like the end of the day, like I'm still a wrestling fan. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna get to like show my inner redneck. Like I'm gonna be like cheering, like yay boo. And we had the best time. And again, I'm a fan for all my friends at the end of the day, but the wrestling fans of the audience had not forgotten about me either. So that was also nice.
Yeah. Well, let's switch gears and talk about some of the stuff you've done outside of wrestling. I know you've been very involved with different charity organizations and have done stuff over the years to help out in your community. Let's talk about some of the stuff you've done to help out over the years.
Yeah, so I'm involved with so through Home Shopping Network, who I started modeling 14 years ago at Home Shopping Network when I slowed down from wrestling. So I was a full-time fashion model and beauty model for a long time. They just shut down operations in St. Pete, Florida, and moved them all up to QVC in Pennsylvania. So that finally went away after like 14 years. But I did that for 14 years and met a ton of really amazing people, but specifically women, through Home Shopping Network that were, like so All the World's Kids is one of the girls that I modeled with at Home Shopping Network. She started a charity called All the World's Kids, and we do a yearly fashion show that raises money for them to go do mission trips in Cambodia to build, housing and schools and keep the kids clothed and things over there. I also like in St. Pete, the CASA community. It's CASA, and it's a domestic violence shelter. So anytime I have things that I need to offload or donate, or that I'm overflowing in my house, I take it to CASA because that's a very important community here in St. Pete. There are many, many women in domestic violence situations, whether it's actually physically being hit, emotional, financial abuse, like whatever it may be. So that is also a charity that's very close to my heart. So I try to donate to them as much as possible. I'm trying to think of anything else I've done. Those are the two main ones that I've done recently, but I'm always building my community and anything I can be involved with. Like I try to go and help in the community.
Was there a particular event that you were a part of or participated in that was heartwarming and meant a lot to you?
The kids' fashion shows. Like the kids fashion shows that we do for all the world's kids because they're actually walking with us, the kids from here that are going to Cambodia to build schools and housing and all the things. We're raising money for them to go. And the girl who runs the whole thing, she's hand making all the clothes and all the jackets that we wear. And yeah, that and just to see the kids like so happy to be walking and to be, videotaped for like TV and like all that. That's my favorite event that we do yearly.
I mean, it's very nice to be able to have something you're able to have something where the kids will go on these trips and be able to have the money ready for them to build houses and really make a difference. Because
Yeah.
that's what it's all about at the end of the day is making that difference and just showing your love and support for communities. And that's what we're about here on Wrestling with Heart is being able to pay it forward. And to you, what is it about giving back to the community that gives you the most joy?
So I don't have any family here. And over the past few years, as I was going through, everything that I've gone through and figuring out my life as like a single mom with my son, I wanted to lean into my community and not lean into another relationship or codependence or just replace a body with a body. Like I wanted to find my true sovereignty. And so I was like, I cannot do this alone because I was so broken. So I thought the only way that I'm gonna get through this and the rebuilding of myself and like the restructuring of my life, the way that I see it for the future is to lean into my community. And so that's what I did. Slowly but surely, there was many days I couldn't walk. And then, the women in my community, and I've really developed a good, group of male friends here too that have just continued to lift me up and lift me up and lift me up here in St. Pete. And, now I'm like thriving. I'm doing really good, but it took me a while to get here.
Yeah, it's what it's all about at the end of the day is having those friends and family, and it seems like you've been able to cultivate relationships that have really grown and you all support each other and try to pay it forward as much as possible.
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
our thing about it is like I know I can always pick up the phone now and call and say, "Hey, I can't, be home right now. Like, can you, run by my house and do this or like whatever?" And then the moms always know, "Oh my gosh, like something came up. I need Loretta needs to be here at this time. Can you swing her by?" So like our phones are always open. It's like, even if it's last minute, if you need to drop a child off by my house is always open. My house always has food. Like, I'm always going to feed, clothe, open my house to like, anybody, hurricanes, we all have to like get together and like, work together as a community. So yeah, so that's what I've leaned into and really I found that community is like really where my heart is. So as much things as I can get involved with, the happier I am.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going through something, it takes your mind off. Once you take your mind off of something to uh, devote yourself to a project that means a lot to you, I mean, all that negativity will just die. It'll just go away, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the light comes in through the cracks. It might look really, really dark, but that there's little cracks and then the light comes in slowly but surely. And if you can just kind of keep putting like one foot in front of the other, your life can like, I look at my life now and I'm like, oh my gosh, like for the first time, really that I can remember, other than like maybe when I was fresh out of high school and sort of like traveling around with Amber and stuff, I'm like living the life I always dreamed of. And every day I sort of make the steps like to for it to get even bigger and better. And I don't really believe in ageism or like anything like that. I'm like, no, life is magical. So it's really been amazing to create, but I mean, I had to have a serious dark night of the soul to get here. It was, very challenging, even for a couple of years prior to. So,
Yeah.
but I'm now in a
Yeah.
nice, solid, peaceful place.
and you're now back into the wrestling scene.
Yeah,
You're getting
actually,
back
I
into.
mean, I wasn't even planning on doing anything. I went to like the NWA show a few weeks ago, and because people remembered me and the pictures started circulating, like promoters that I worked for like back in the day for so long, again, my relationships are really good. And they said, "Hey, you want to come work? We'd love to have you." And I'm like, fear could have kept me and like said no, but I'm like, no, I'm going. It'll be so fun. Like, so yeah, I don't let fear hold me back anymore because that really, I think, ruined my whole WWE thing. And so now I'm like, no, step past the fear and like step into like your power.
And what I think is so cool too is that women's wrestling, it's skyrocketed. And now you see all companies, WWE, AEW, TNA, NWA, the Japanese promotions. You've got an amazing group of women right now that are killing it
Yeah.
all across the board right now. And I think that's amazing to see how far women's wrestling has come. So I hope it continues to grow and you continue to see people continue to thrive.
Me too.
Now, I know you've kept up with the products to a degree. Do you have like any dream opponents that you've thought about? Like, wow, I'd love to get in the ring with this person. This could and
I do. I know immediately who it is, Natty, because I was Natty's very first developmental match, and she was nervous as a cat, and I was like confident, back then because I was like the Deep South veteran, like for girls. And so now I would love, and I know Natty's allowed to do like some indies and stuff now, and she and I are still close. Natty, hands down. I'd love to, and she would have to guide and lead me through the entire thing. And that's why I'd be like, girl, you owe me from 20 years ago. Like now you got to guide and lead me through. But Natty, hands down.
that would be a true full circle moment, and I
Yes.
think that'd be incredible to have
Yeah.
that to
Yeah.
see that. Yeah, I'd love to see that for sure. Krissy, I want to say thank you so much for coming on here. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find out more about you on social media and all the cool things you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm super active on Instagram. It's magical.krissy, Magical dot Krissy, Krissy. And then Krissy Vaine on Facebook. You can follow me. Those two are connected. I have a TikTok, but I don't really use it. So, but Instagram's my most like active account.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Krissy, again, and you're more than welcome to come
I'm
back.
sorry for my voice. I was like trying. My voice is like going in and out.
It's all right. Hey, we'll do a part two. We'll talk more about, your wrestling experiences and
Oh yeah,
everything
we
going
have to do
forward.
another one after I actually wrestled because
Yeah,
my friend Tiffany and actually Tracy Taylor's daughter, who I was in developmental with. So I'm wrestling Tracy Taylor's daughter on day two. Like how wild is that?
that's exciting. I wish you the best of luck with that, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. And we'll talk more about this in the future. So yeah, you're more than welcome to come back, and we'll talk more.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Stanley.
All right, take care.
Bye.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.